Welcome to the Q&A of Dracula. I'm happy to be here with the director, Radu Jude, and part of a big cast of the movie. We are here with Oana Maria Zaharia, Lucas Miko, Gabriel Spaiu, e Adonis Stanta. We are happy to be here also with the cast because I think that this movie is really a movie that collects different stories. And I want to start from some digression of the movie because there are two love stories that the director of the movie introduced as two digression. And so I want to start to the idea to put in Dracula this love story of the 60s in the countryside of Romania and the Tale of Tales that it's one of the more exhilarant part of the movie.
Well, thank you very much. By the way, there's chairs here. If some of you who are standing wanna come and sit, you can do it. What can I say? The whole principle of the film is to incorporate a lot of stories and to find around this myth of vampires or whatever it is, different dimensions from other perspectives, and of course. Originally, the Dracula myth and the vampire myth is connected with love and with sex and with all these things. So I thought it should be some love stories. And then it was a way, to play for the market. As we discussed before, I think I always heard this kind of accusation, especially in Romania, by audiences, but sometimes also by some film critics. And it was, I think, justified in a certain way, saying, why don't you make films for a big audience? And when I asked what a big audience want, the result was, well, bad jokes, chases, sex, nudity, vulgarity, vampires, love stories, emotions. So I said, well, I'm gonna make a film with all this. So I try to find a way to incorporate two love stories, one close to the beginning, one close to the end, in order to please a large audience, and to say why not? And I'm glad it worked so well. So nobody can say, well, you didn't do an audience-friendly film. I say, well, what do you mean? It has everything that it's supposed to have. Oh, sorry.
Every part of the movie has also a different mise-en-scène, and there is really, this idea to play with the cinema, to play with, some episodes are really action, other horror, other are more similar to theater, and there is also a sort of progression inside the movie. So I want to know how you manage all of these different kind of mise-en-scène, and also for the actor, because they play in different role and in different episode with different kind of emotion to fill in the story. So I want to know how it was difficult, these things.
Well, I'm happy about what you said at the beginning about the playfulness of the film, because I think that nowadays that's the lesson, if you want, of the avant-garde, of the historical avant-garde, that being playful is in a certain way, in a non-conventional way, more or less, let's say, at least in part, is a way to engage with other themes or to see the world in a different way, using these dumb things. I mean, imagine when Warhol was painting, I don't know, the Coca-Cola bottle. That's a very idiotic gesture, but it's very playful, painting a Coca-Cola bottle or a bill of $1 or whatever. So I think it's this kind of lessons are still alive as potential, and it was this idea to make a film using the pleasure of making the film and expecting that there will be some pleasure on receiving, and maybe there's a bit something else here, which a bit exaggerated, was expressed by a filmmaker which I kind of like, and who was also, and still is, because he's still writing, a great film critic as well, Luc Moulet. And Moulet has an interesting idea about how a good film director, a good filmmaker is good only with a shit script, a very bad script. Because with a good script, anybody can make a good film. But he said, well, a real filmmaker, you know, is the one who transforms a shitty script into something. And, well, I think, of course, it's an exaggeration in certain ways, but if you start thinking, I think there's something here. There's something in what I don't like as a viewer is the films made by the scripts, where you see a film and you say, oh, the story is so good, everything is so well made, and there's no life into it. I sometimes... I prefer films that have bad scripts or bad stories or bad this and bad that, but the creativity, if you want, to use a word which I don't like, expresses itself cinematically in richer ways than just executing a script. And I like this word. This is how they say it. You know, the director executed the script, so it shows what's behind. And now for the actors, I let them answer. Mrs. Zakaria.
Answer what? What should I answer to?
What she asked you?
It was for everybody.
Yeah.
Can you repeat, please?
I was mesmerized by Radu's answer. I forgot the question.
No, I think that you are in the main story, no, of the movie. And you bring in this story a lot of energy, a lot of strong, because as we said also this morning, you survive. And this is really important in the story. So I changed for you a little bit this question, because it's interesting also now that you saw the movie, if you think that your character, it's something that resonates in all the female character of the movie. This strongness.
I think some of the other characters are strong without knowing they are strong. It's an interesting question. I have to think a little bit. There were so many stories in the movie that now I am actually reviewing every story and every female character. That's what's happening in my mind, if anybody's curious, to try to trace a line between them to see. Yeah, I think what I love about Radu's films is that he actually has a lot of women in main roles, and also women who are more mature, not necessarily young, also not necessarily corresponding to the beauty standards. And so, yeah, I think the choice of actress is a great one, and I admire that. And
I think they correspond to the beauty standards, but it's...
Of course, me too, but we know, you know what I mean. Yes, of course. But I love that they are different, they are diverse, and yeah, most of them are very, very strong, and they're not afraid to be themselves, and they're not ashamed of what they're doing and their lifestyle, and Okay. It's my first time at such an event. It's my first big role, so I am a bit nervous. Sorry.
And Gabriel, you are the sparring partner of this couple, but you are also in a movie without word.
Yes.
So two really close role, but really different. No, you are Dracula in two really different ways.
Yeah. For the like I said in the morning, for the main story, I did a realistic approach, and I discovered that I'm Dracula. So, and now thinking, I realized that if we are sincere with us, most of us there are like my character. So I don't know if you like this, but you have thinking just a little, and most of us will recognize that in themselves that we are like my character. And the second.
Wankers, losers.
Yeah. Everyone, we are humans, so we are losers. It's yeah, yeah. And about the second short movie, it was just my face. I walk on the streets from Sighișoara, and it's
really
so
funny way.
it's Jude who choose me to make this role. So it's not I just walk on the streets, then that's all, and I put that cum se zice clește. That plier on my teeth, and that's all what I did. Yeah.
It's me. I don't know what to answer. I feel you guys. Hello, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. Yes. I feel my colleagues because I just seen the movie for the first time, and it's all of us, I think. Yeah, I don't know, but it's wow. I don't know. I remember all the rehearsing, all the sets, all my roles, and it was a hard work. I want to congratulations Radu and all the team and everything for production, everything, and I'm so glad and happy and joyful that I'm part of this project.
Made really a tour of force, no?
Yeah, and I'm so happy that Radu trusts me. I worked at it. It's not that I made it. I learned a lot of text. I prepare myself a lot with the body, with everything, and it remains with me. Sorry? Yeah. I worked. Okay. Alone. Yeah. So yes. I don't know. It remains with me. It remained with me the last story, with that father, and I get very emotional because I view my parents in him, and I'm here in another country from Romania. My mother worked in Italy and so on, and I'm here in a movie festival, and I'm an actor, and they made the hard work, let's say, in a way, and I think it's a very good ending of the movie. To end the movie with a story of a simple person who, I don't know, love his daughter and try to work, and that's what I want to say. And it was very fun at working at these parts, and I don't know, I'm overwhelmed right now. I need to think about it, and I liked it a lot. I think it's a wonderful movie.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, we are all under the impression, like you, people from this roller coaster. And for me, Radu is a genius of narrative structure. As an actor, you know that whatever you play, it will be somehow put together with thousands other elements and be more than what you do as an actor. And I told you already in the morning that when we had a talk before working together, he told me, play bad, but in a good way. So this was an interesting challenge, and I kept thinking about it every shooting day. And yeah, I'm under the impression of the work of my colleagues, and especially you, Adonis. It's amazing how much talent and playfulness and work you've put in this work. It's really chapeau, great.
I want to let the space for the audience. Do you have a question there?
Hi. So, well, first, of course, congratulations for your work. And can you hear me? Yeah. So, I'm sorry for my ignorance. I wanted to know if the longest story was actual novel written. Okay. And in that case, while I was watching it, I was trying to grasp maybe the meaning in the whole movie. And my idea, maybe I'm over intellectualizing it, but was that we don't need AI to make bad stories. And somehow that fit very well within the theme of Dracula and how things get life from others. And I was just wondering, did the director or the cast also saw something like that in this story or in other stories?
Can you repeat the last phrase? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So was it just me, or is this something somehow self-aware? Well, one of the point of that story or of other stories.
Okay. Well, first of all, just before answering this, I must thank to all the actors. Andrada Bala is also here, and Esther Tompa, and my son Matei. So we just don't have enough places here, but I think they're all great, and I'm so happy to have worked with them. Now, I don't understand exactly what you mean by this question, because I think like McLuhan said, the medium is the message in a certain way. So even if you can make a bad film like that without using AI, using the AI images brings something, a certain texture, a certain poetics, a certain poetry, a certain engagement with what cinema is, or what cinema could be, or what storytelling is, what storytelling could be in the world of today, of TikTok stories, of reels from Instagram, etc., that this, I think, changed the nature of the project, like any other element. So my idea at the beginning was, and it's something that I try to engage as a filmmaker with everything in a certain, with all the tools. It's something that, well, I don't paint, and I'm not a painter, but I'm passionate about painting and history of arts, and you discover that painters already 100 years ago did that all the time, meaning by that you could put oil, paint with oil, or you paint with watercolors, or you can do with found materials, or you can do with whatever, with industrial paint, or everything that's around. It's part of could become part of the work. So I was thinking that only cinema has this split between what is considered professional, either professional tools or professional ways of making, and what is considered amateur. And amateur is, like if you shoot on iPhone, you're an amateur. If you use some techniques or you do things in such a way, you're. Someone told me yesterday, he's an American, and of course, as a kid in Romania in the 90s, I didn't grow up having video cameras. So none of us had. Still, they were very expensive. So my generation and older generation of filmmakers no one was formed by hanging out with colleagues or with friends with video camera, making short films or whatever. But in other countries, of course, they did that. And this American who's like in his 50s or late 50s, I don't know, he told me, I saw the film, and it reminded me so much when we were kids and made horror films with fake blood in our kitchen or whatever. And I think it's true. I think I try to recapture this spirit of amateur. And there's an essay of Stan Brakhage, who's one of my favorite filmmakers, and it's called, you can find it online, I think it's called In Praise of Amateurs. And of course, now when you become at a certain level of professionalism, maybe you cannot become an amateur exactly like when you're 14 years old and try to make films, but I think there's a certain way of And when you use tools that you cannot control, and AI you cannot control that much. For instance, there's a lot of images with this weird camera, sort of putative camera movement, which comes from Chinese AI machines, and you cannot stop it without, I don't know if Vlaiko Golce is here, he's the mastermind, he's here in the first row, so you can ask Vlaiko how we did it, but this ridiculous camera movement were like a preset of the machines doing it. So in the end, you know, you're forced to accept, you're forced to engage with certain materials and certain techniques, and that brings, for me, a kind of epistemological dimension that it's important, and I hope for the viewers as well. And something else, it's still no rules. These new technologies, either the cameras or the AI or whatever, still are not plagued by rules. On the contrary, they are rejected. If you speak with Hollywood people, they are afraid of AI, and I think they have reason to, because, you know, they make a film, they make hundreds of millions of dollars, but, you know, with a Romanian film you don't do that, so nobody cares if you use AI, and you don't lose anything basically. So but in the States, I think in Hollywood, I think there's a big discussion about oh, you shouldn't use AI. Well, I don't care, I use whatever is at hand to make the movies. Sorry, it was too long.
Hi, sorry for my English, I try. Under the trash, the political, the religious, and the sexuality, because yes, Dracula finally is a sexual figure, I see, and this is the question, correct or no, I don't know, I see the death of the myth of Dracula, because today Dracula is a legend, is a famous figure, abused by us, and like Charlie Chaplin or like Harmony Kori's film Mr. Lolly, you abuse by Dracula figures, and this is amazing. And the word, Romanian is famous in the world for Dracula, and this is very interesting, the way you transport this abuse, this marketing on Dracula. And the question is, in your film is who is and who was Dracula now and then. And I'll make a director, maybe one day I'll be to work with you, because this freedom is incredible for me, really. Thank you all for this film.
Well, thank you. Yeah, let's work together, bring some money and we do it. No problem. And but no, I was joking, of course. It's interesting that Romania is well known as the country of Dracula, because for us, you know, did you know about Dracula before 1989? I mean, I was 13 at the revolution, but nobody in Romania, it was like a taboo thing or not used, maybe because it was not materialistic enough, so the communist regime would keep it away. So we were discovering that with a certain surprise in the 90s, that people say, oh, you're from the country of Dracula. I said, what is that? So actually, that's why I think it took us a while, because there's no Dracula films in Romania. I mean, there's two, one by a guy called Adrian Popovici, which actually it's like a Romanian real Ed Wood kind of film, but with not so much creativity. And another one by a younger filmmaker named Robert Lakatos. He's a Hungarian ethnic from Transylvania. He made, apparently, I haven't seen this one, he reconstructed a vampire film from Transylvania, from I don't know which the silent movie time, a lost film. So, and I came on top of that, because actually there's this myth was somehow, as you could see, there's the adaptation of this real novella. Now I forgot to answer The Gentleman, that it's a real short novel that I adapted, concentrating it a bit. It's more boring than the film, actually, the novel. And that's the only thing that exists, and a few others things in the kind of mythology which not real vampires, and not Dracula, it's a bit something else. So for us it was a kind of surprise, and at some point, and that's a real story that I used a little bit in the film, that the government, she's telling it, her character is telling it in the film, that the government wanted to create this Dracula park, and it was a scheme to take people's money, and they disappeared. And I think that's unfortunate, because I really think a Dracula park, I think it would be a very successful thing. So, you know, many Swiss guys will take money from banks and come there to have a bit of entertainment. You know? So, no, but honestly, I think it could be something, and there is, because there is this crazy tourism, not only in Sighișoara, in all the traces of the story from Bram Stoker's story, or in other iconic places of Vlad the Impaler. Neil Young, who's playing in our film, went to Lugoj, where Bela Lugosi was born. That's the name he took from the city, and there's a cinema with his name. So there's traces of all this kind of mythology, the cinematic mythology around the vampire myth. So we try to build on that. So maybe next year you can invest in a new Dracula themed park. I don't know. And I make a sequel.
I want to add something about, to give you some more context about how Dracula is viewed in Romania. I think we have always had a love and hate relationship with him. Like I remember when I was younger, and the foreigners kept telling us that, oh, you're from Dracula land. I was pissed off, like everybody was, oh, these stupid Americans talking about Dracula all the time. But then, in time, Romanians decided, oh, we can exploit this for the tourists. Okay, it's cool. We are cool about Dracula. And now then they changed the attitude. So now it's mixed. They totally mixed our Vlad Dracula, who is the real Romanian ruler from our history, and they mixed him up with Dracula, and they made such a mess about it. Now I am sure that people who don't have access to education have no idea anymore who's Dracula and who is Vlad Dracul. And I think, yeah, that's why they are confounded. And a lot of people have this love for Vlad Dracul, the old ruler who was so tough on the thieves and on the whores and on the, you know, on all the sinners. And a lot of Romanians now, especially the far right people, are like, yes, bring him back, let's destroy and kill. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He was the icon for the fascist in Romania. So it's very interesting. I'm sure a lot of Romanians will be very pissed off that Radu and the whole team destroyed the image of our dear Vlad the Impaler, who would come to kill the whores and the sinners. You know, it's something very, very annoying for them. You know.
Okay. At some point during the movie, his character quotes Franco Moretti, and I feel like this could be your opera mondo, because I feel like all the stuff that lately interests you as a filmmaker, as an author, are inside this, the TikTok aesthetic, the AI, this feeling of like scrolling through a movie with different timelines and storylines. And since we recently met at the Continental 35 premiere, you mentioned that you shot that movie with some of the cast during the shooting of this movie. So I was curious to know how this worked, and maybe in retrospective, could that be maybe an episode of this movie, because there could be a Dracula in that as well. And also just last question to Gabriel, because he always dies at the end of all Radu's movies, and I was wondering if maybe like it could live in the future in your next movie.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Franco Moretti, because, well, for me he's important. He's someone I read not all the books, but a lot of things that he wrote, and of course he's the brother of great Nanni Moretti. But apart, and I think it shows some things that I think it's not very well discussed today, the relationship between practice and theory, let's say, because I have the feeling that a lot of people, like filmmakers, to speak about our branch, stay away from theory, and they say, well, fuck all these critics, historians, theorists, they don't know anything, we are the real artists, and I strongly resist this tendency. I really consider like Godard was saying that someone who's write a critique is actually a filmmaker, and vice versa. When you make a film, you make a critique. So I really need both elements. I need the practice and I need the theory. And then, well, I don't know what to say. Is that if the film contains everything, that's questionable, because first of all, it's difficult for me to analyze inside my body of work. I try to let myself open to whatever sparks my interest. Of course, between the two films that we shot back to back, and that's something also that comes from theory in a certain way, or actually from history of cinema, because I read at some point, and that stayed with me for years, an interview with Monte Hellman, that at some point he made a Western for Roger Corman, Ride in the Whirlwind. And Corman apparently said, look, you have actors, you have costumes, you have the horses, you have the sets. Why don't you make 2 movies instead of 1? And well, that's a kind of always a question. Why don't you do 2 things instead of 1? It's a real question. So I said, when I did Dracula, I said, why not take the lesson from Roger Corman and from Monte Hellman and do 2 movies instead of 1? Now, if this film could have been part of, I don't know. I yes and no, because I think this is a structure that is a bit of a not very honest structure, because you can put everything into it and still would work. So in a certain way, that the other film could work inside this film at some point. I even consider that. So you have a good intuition around that. But in the end, I separated them, because I think that film grew in proportion, and it became like a 2-hour-long film. So I don't think you wanted to see a 5-hour-long film here, in that room or those chairs. And I give...
Okay, so finally, what was the question for me?
If you...
We made a film called The Film for Friends.
Yes, yes.
It's on YouTube, where he doesn't die.
Yes.
or almost.
Almost, yes.
Last question? There.
So most of your previous films have had this air of unfinishedness to them, in a way, of like incompleteness, which you acknowledge, and even labeled, like, I think, I don't remember if it was Do Not Expect Too Much or Bad Luck Man, which you labeled a sketch.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for the mix-up, but I was wondering, especially since you mentioned that this is a film with everything in it, that you just joked about the sequel earlier. And how do you relate to the shape of this film, basically? And is there any sort of structure or like literary type that influenced you?
Well, I think I already discussed about the influences from early literature, from early novel, actually, or close to novel structures, either Boccaccio or I think Diderot, Jacques and his master is mentioned in the film, and Lawrence Stern. It's a lot of before the literature became so stuck to storytelling in a way. I think it had more freedom of composition. And if you read Rabelais, Gargantua and Pantagruel, or Don Quixote, it's such a free-form storytelling. It has everything in it. It has a lot of stories that don't belong to the Don Quixote main story, so to speak. So that's one thing. But the other, I think it's true that there's a relation with the non-finished or with the sketchy aspect, which preoccupies me more and more for different reasons. But I think the main reason is the fact that when you try to have a structure that closes things in a good dramaturgical structure, classical or maybe less classical, doesn't matter, but when you have a good dramaturgy, or what is called a good dramaturgy, you are forced to let out a lot of other things. Of course, that's what you have to choose, and you have to. And I have the feeling that in a structure which is based more on digressions or more on sketch or more on non finito, like it was called in painting, it's you have not such a great work. It's not completely closed. It's not completely finished. It's not completely perfect. So you expect that you would be criticized for that. You expect that some people will dismiss that as being too slacky or being too superficial or whatever. But in the same time, since I strongly believe in ideas, in our case in cinematic ideas, I think you can have them all that cross your mind, and if you find a structure that can accommodate all, even if it's not finished, even if it's not closed, the potentialities of that, for me, it's much more important than if it's closed or not. And I remember I had a discussion with two filmmakers, actually. I won't say the names because it was a private discussion, I don't know. And we discussed Orson Welles. And I was on the opinion that why Welles is so great is not only because of his great masterpieces, but of his great films that some are just begun, some are not finished, some are, just have a few scenes good in them, and the rest is not well made. There's a lot of projects that Wells had which were not made, and I have the feeling that this work of Wells is as important as the great films he did. Mr. Arkadin has, I don't know, 5 versions, or I don't know how many. And another thing, I said, no, that's bullshit. I regret that Wells wasn't more serious and more, able to really stick to work and make great films one after another, because of course he was able to. And I don't know, of course I would have liked to see more great Orson Welles movies, but for me, I feel more inspired by his, by the non-finished films, or by the films which are not perfect, because there's more poetry in them in a certain way, I think.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Radu Jude, all the cast for this powerful film.
Thank you,
thank you.
Thank you to all the collaborators which are here, the producers, the collaborators that made this bad film possible. Thank you so much.